It's a perfect night for Frisbee or slip and slides if that's your thing. Jeff Babbitt looking for his fourth UFA title and his first with the Boston Glory. The Minnesota Wind Chill trying to go back-to-back and become just the third team in the history of the league to accomplish that remarkable feat. Welcome to Breese Stevens Field here in Madison, Wisconsin. It is a picture-perfect Saturday night. Boston advancing 21-17 over the West Champs Salt Lake in game one of our semis doubleheader yesterday. And Atlanta had a two-goal lead entering the fourth, but Minnesota outscored the Hustle 8-4 in the final 12 minutes to create this, what hopefully will be a memorable matchup. Good evening and welcome again, everybody. With Ian Toner, Charlie Eisenhood, Evan Lepler, honored to be here. So the Minnesota O-line will start on the field, which is always a bit of an adventure. We'll see how they handle this moment. Let's talk keys to the game. Let's start with the Boston Glory, Charlie.
Well, if they want to win this game, they just got to keep doing what they're doing, and that's making the boring look beautiful. You may not love it. You don't necessarily want to watch somebody put together a 3-minute possession with 70 throws and never doing anything that looks all that exciting, but guess what? It wins ultimate games, and that's what Boston has been doing when they're at their best. If they do that again tonight, they're going to win this game and win their first championship.
Yeah, the Wind Chill need to find a way to disrupt that boring, beautiful ultimate. They need to find a way to create chaos on the field. They've got all kinds of defensive sets. They have unbelievable individual talents on their defensive line. Think of the talents of Justin Burnett, Noah Hansen, other guys we haven't even had a second to mention yet. They need those guys to be doing crazy things all over the field, to be scheming up different concepts and making this Boston offense uncomfortable.
Minnesota trying to join the Spiders and the Empire and become just the third team in UFA history to win back-to-back championships. On offense for the Wind Chill, you see the 7 on the line: Will Brandt, Gordon Larson, Matt Rader, Brian Vanoka, Josh Klain, Christian Johnson, and the 19-year-old phenom Thomas Shope. Boston will begin with Jeff Babbitt out there on D alongside Tanner Johnson-Go, who will pull Tyler Chan, Calvin Stoughton, Oscar Graf, Brendan McCann, and Peter Borth.
An early dose of Babbitt on the D-lines. Good sign for his health that he's playing this first point.
I agree with you, and hey, that's how he started the game against Salt Lake yesterday. D-line, then going back out there for the O point.
All season long, we've been waiting for this moment. The 155th and final game of the 2025 Ultimate Frisbee Association season is underway, with Minnesota looking for something that has often been elusive for them this year. That's a clean hold for their O-line on the initial possession. Gordon Larson picked up by Peter Borth. Will Chan challenged by Oscar Graf. Those two college teammates at St. Olaf, and now the deep shot looking for Thomas Shope. He misplays it, and it's Tyler Chan skying for the interception.
Sam Rosenthal talked about wanting to take away the deep game. They send that extra help defender right away, as Chan able to come up with the interception, as Shope can't get a clean look at it.
Boston's D-line yesterday, 8 for 8 on break chances. Brendan McCann launching for Johnson-Go. Rader giving chase behind him. Tanner's got it, shy of the goal line. Boston so close to an opening break. We get the huck, and then this is the boring, beautiful offense that you're talking about, even from the Boston D-line. Taking their time, not forcing it. Graf gets free again. Stoughton on the doorstep. Tanner Johnson-Go is in.
That's one. Dream start for the Boston Glory. They win the aerial battle in both directions. And Tanner Johnson-Go leading the way for the Boston D-line offense, which went perfect yesterday and starts perfect today.
How about that help defense from Tyler Chan? Calvin Stoughton had the Shope assignment, and Chan recognizing the deep shot going up, coming over into that help space. Probably not a defender that we talk about enough when we talk about what this Glory D-line does and is capable of. And that's a group that's off to another really strong start. And I thought that Minnesota O-line looked good up until that deep shot. They were making good progress, but you know they're feeling the pressure that they have to establish their deep game early on and make Boston's defense respect it.
Yeah, I think a better executed throw probably results in a score.
Minnesota has 7 new players on the field. For Boston, Graf and Borth are still out there. 5 new guys joining those 2.
This typical D-line for Minnesota played good O-points last night.
Paul Krennic's going deep. He hauls in the shot from Berglund. James Pollard flips it for Quinn Snyder. An important response from Minnesota.
You know, at what point do you start to ask the coaching staff, hey, should we just have this D2 or D hybrid line go out there and play O points from the jump? Because Paul Krennic's been really great after the turn and when he's had to fill in an O prime situation for the offense. That's after the offense has been broken, and then you get a line out there that has some D-line and O-line guys trying to secure a hold.
Krennic's been pretty clearly their best player this weekend. I think they're going to need to have a lot of him on the field, as much as they can get from him. Obviously, he's really valuable defensively, coming up with the 5 blocks, as you mentioned, the open, Ian, but it's also about his offense and his decision-making. He's been so solid.
First pull for Cam Lacey. His pulls have been a weapon, and Boston is without Ben Sadok tonight. So Ryan Dinger centers the disc to Ned Dick, who quickly finds Orion Cable, the big man downfield for Simon Carapella. And now the first touch for Toba DeCrana. Blake Crapful is on Jeff Babbitt downfield. Brian Vinoka stealing a point on D. Here's Babbitt's first touch. Carapella to Dick in power position. Hansen switches and then switches right back. What do you guys see Minnesota trying to do defensively?
I mean, this looks like a pretty honest D point now that they've collapsed into their red zone set. Maybe a little more switching with Noah Hansen just hanging out by that front cone.
9 assists yesterday for DeCrana, and today begins with a turnover. Just out of the reach of the bidding Babbitt.
It's hard to overthrow Jeff Babbitt.
Toba told us earlier today this is the game he has been training for basically all of his life. Over the past 7, 8, 9 years since he found the sport of ultimate and committed to it and bought in. But an early miscue in the red zone. I imagine our viewers at home heard it as well. There was a different roar from the crowd when Minnesota got their first goal compared to Boston's opening break. We got contact. It's interference on Dinger. Minnesota maintains possession.
I think Hansen's fortunate to get a whistle there. I do think it was a foul, but this might have been going over his head.
Hansen at midfield. Gets away with a little push off to the ire of the Boston bench. Here's Blake Crapful, marked by Albert Yuan. To Brian Vinoka. End zone. Brett Bergmeyer has the wind chill break. Guy that replaced Dylan DeClerc in the lineup.
This feels very much like how the Atlanta-Minnesota game started yesterday. Both teams trading early breaks. Minnesota's D-line coming out there, playing some great offense. And to Toba DeCrana missing here, you gotta mention, we saw him struggle for Team Belgium at the Under-24 World Championships earlier this summer in a big spot in the finals against the United States. Justin Burnett was on the D-line for that team that really took Belgium out of what they wanted to do. Toronto's going to have to play through this error and not let it get to him and start having him kind of thinking about some of those other spots where he hasn't played his best in the biggest games.
Well, we heard Sam Rosenthal and a couple other Glory leaders this morning talk about, hey, our D-line is so good, it could be an O-line on any other team in the league. We're about to see that be put to the test right here because none of the Glory O-liners are out there. This is Tanner Johnson-Go anchoring the D-line O here for the Glory.
Bonoka to Bergmeyer for the wind chill break a point ago. Borth for Johnson-Go, midfield. This is Stoughton. Turner Allen. Johnson-Go is absolutely the quarterback here. That's the right term for him. Not quite every other, but almost. Noah Backer gets a touch. Dishes for Allen. Tanner's now down in the stack. Allen doubled by Pollard, who gets back to his man Backer. Stoughton milks it. Borth in the middle. Boston's D-line. Oh, a bobble and a deflection and a goal. And Borth says, not so fast, my friend.
Both holds in this game so far have come from the D-lines playing on the O point. What an interesting start to this final.
I think that's got to be huge for the Boston sideline and Boston's morale. Yeah, sure, they did get broken, but their D-line just went out there and played the same style that you see from the typical O-line. Patient, boring, but still getting the job done and not really getting in any jams, with the exception of that little bobble on that goal line.
Well, Tristan Vandermortel, I think, got a piece of it, and Borth still able to kind of maintain his focus and get the catch. You saw the rest of the D-line with their hands on their heads in disbelief.
And Boston coach Sam Rosenthal said earlier that if the Glory can get 6 breaks, he feels like they have a really good chance to win. Do you guys think this is going to be a big break game, or do you think the offenses are going to settle in?
Are we allowed to reserve judgment until we see a few more points, or do we have to break out the crystal ball this second?
I'm going to eject you from the broadcast booth if you don't tell me definitively right now.
I do think the offenses are going to settle in. This looks more like early jitters than big structural problems. Both teams have worked well against the opposing defense.
There's a time issue, I believe. So the officials will coordinate. Blake Grundy, Jonathan Monforti, Julie Morris, and Steve Haynes. The 4 referees assigned to tonight's championship contest for the best whistles in our sport. Cousins had Larson going deep, but he holsters. McCann putting the pressure on Klain. Around Horrisberger, Cousins continues. Snyder is there. Floating in the air, and Johnson felt the pressure from Allen. It's a drop, but Turner Allen's footsteps were loud. Young Benjamin Horrisberger working with Brendan McCann. Boston hunting its second break. Oscar Graff bluffs the Scuba. And into the tight space, Allen is in, and he spikes it. That hits the back of Minnesota's Christian Johnson, and he apologizes immediately. But that probably should be a tech.
See him talking to Jonathan Monforti about that right now. Didn't see a signal of attack, but this is why just simply being close can get you turnovers. Feeling like we might have to go up and make a play, Allen right there, and then scoring at the front cone. And
I'm not going to lie. Like, we've seen spikes that are more intentionally close to opponents. That was, hey, I'm fired up, I'm amped up, and that took a weird ricochet and went into him. I think Monforte is factoring the appearance of intent or lack thereof into that. I don't know if you guys feel differently.
Feels like, to me, it's probably an automatic technical.
I would agree.
But they don't call it.
Yeah, Boston pulls from the normal spot, 20 yards in front of the end zone. It's a hodgepodge line here for Minnesota. Bunch of D-liners out there, including James Pollard. Vanny Mortel was calling for it. Oh, and he just evades the poaching pressure from Backer. Pollard's going deep. Vanny Mortel puts it on a platter, and Pollard is there.
Are we going to get a flip-flop game? D-line's playing O, O-line's playing D. James Pollard bringing some spark to this offensive point.
I mean, how about that effort from Pollard on that point? He gets the visionary gainer past the outstretched arms of Backer in a high stall situation, and then he takes off to the end zone to complete the point.
We're 6 points in, and the only goal that's been scored by a guy that primarily plays offense is Quinn Snyder, and that was the second O point for the wind chill. He sat out the first, so he was playing with most of the D guys. The O-lines haven't held yet.
How much will Ben Sadok's absence hurt this Boston offense?
Topher Davis activated for the Glory tonight with no Sadok. And a poach block, Vinoka. Cable tunnel vision, telegraphed it. Floating, but not long enough. And an errant choice there for Krapfel. He had Burnett streaking down the sideline open, but that was an ambitious choice for Minnesota.
Yeah, you saw the lane that he was looking at, but it was just pure tunnel vision. Didn't even factor in anyone else in the stack.
Burnett on DeCrana. That should be fun. Suflo trying to make things difficult for Dick. Krennic is on Babb at this point. Jeff has not really made an effort to cut. Biding his time. Deep shot looking Cable's way. Testing Krapfel. And it's Cable being the biggest.
A little tongue out at the defender as Cable goes up huge on the beautiful deep shot from DeCrana.
I mean, he let that go kind of late in the progression. As we get a look at the turnover there. Initially, Vinoka getting the poach block, and then Krapfel turning it back over. And DeCrana, see, Cable's already 35, 40 yards deep by the time he pulls the trigger. And
in Boston, they call that Schmeat.
You're right. I should have used the technical term from the beginning.
That's just a throw it up to the big man. The tall timbers down there waiting for it.
There have been college kids who have asked me to start calling stuff like that Schmeat, and I have refrained, been waiting for the right moment. I'm glad you introduced that into our broadcasting vocabulary, because that's what the kids are saying these days. Glory leads 4-3. Shope coming under, marked by Horrisberger. These guys have had battles in college Frisbee this year. Two of the kids we're talking about. Horrisberger at Oregon. They were a semifinalist. Of course, Shope's Carleton team won the national title. Minnesota defender Noah Hansen, one of the coaches of that Carleton squad. Cousins feeds Johnson. Close in on 2 minutes to go, and Snyder run into by Rossi. Sebastian Rossi, the young Italian, called for the 10-yard contact penalty. Big swing from Klain. Larson runs it down. Good gainer to Cousins. Brandt, little push off downfield to get free. They didn't call it, and Will Brandt has his first assist of the night. Christian Johnson in the end zone, and we're tied 4-all.
So back-to-back O-line scores. We're settling in here into this first quarter. It took about 10 minutes, but here we are. And a nicely played point that time by the wind chill. Playing through some pretty good defense from Boston, but Brandt finding a little space. Minnesota showing that they're willing to work the unders.
Boston started this year 8-0 and lost 3 of their final 4 regular season games. But they were the 1 seed in the East, and they thoroughly thrashed the DC Breeze in the East Final to get to their first championship weekend. For Minnesota, it was a much more tumultuous season. They were embarrassed on their home field against Chicago early on. They got a marquee win at home against Atlanta, but they struggled in the regular season rematch on Independence Day at Chicago. But everything turned around come playoff time. Minnesota tonight could set a UFA record with their 7th straight postseason win. Their last postseason loss was the semifinals against the Shred, the Joel Clutton deflection that tied it for Salt Lake at the buzzer of regulation.
Feels like they earned some karma from that game, and they've kind of been spending it through this playoffs.
Boston's been patient this possession. They've got 30 seconds with which to work. Carapella throws to Yuan with Hansen in his back pocket. DeCrana with 17, double on the sideline, swings for Carapella. Tied late in the first. End of quarter drama. DeCrana with 6. Blade back corner. It's a bullseye. Orion Cable in the end zone.
Seems like Toba is not sweating that early turnover. What a throw with under 5 seconds to go in the quarter. Has to find something, and it's not a jump ball. This is a dart. What a throw from Toba.
There were multiple options in the last few seconds there as they progressed into the red zone, where Ned Dick was just standing there with his arms open like, hey, come on, just pop it out over here. No one's on me. And ultimately, Toba DeCrana chose the better option.
Still 3 seconds remaining in the quarter. Johnson go, roller pull. Quick release, Josh Klain launch. Battle at the buzzer to end the first. And it's Cable again using his incredible size to take care of business. 2 goals and a block for Orion Cable in the opening quarter. DeCrana had the early turn, but also a couple assists to go with it. Beautiful night for the 2025 UFA Championship. Glory by 1 after 1. 1 down, 3 to go on this picture-perfect Saturday night in the capital city of Ultimate. Just about a half-mile down the road from the square, the state capitol, sits this beautiful Breese Stevens Field. 5-4 Boston after 1. We've got Colin Camp down on the sidelines. Colin, eager to get your thoughts on the vibes on the field in the opening quarter.
Yeah, Evan, great first quarter. Lots of back and forth. Right now, Minnesota using their numbers. They traveled in numbers this evening, and they're using that high energy to really try to prop up this team. While we look at Boston, it almost looks like they're trying to conserve a little bit of energy in between points, taking their time, taking their breath. Less of a sideline presence. So really contrasting styles right now with what we're seeing between the two sidelines.
Yeah, that's a great point, Colin. This Minnesota team traveled with like 16 additional players beyond the 20 that were active, and all their local support staff. They're a drive away, whereas Boston's a flight. And I honestly felt, as we see a mishandled pull here from Boston to start the second quarter, I thought that made a difference last night, guys. The energy with which Minnesota exploded off the sideline after big second half breaks, and we might see that again here. Vanny Mortel's going to pick up on the doorstep, looking for the equalizer after Boston never got rolling. We're tied again. Vanny Mortel to Krennic, just like that. Minnesota's special teams looking special.
So Dinger struggled with the roll. He initially got a fingertip on it, but he didn't fully stop it, and so it kept going to the back of the end zone. And then he's trying to center the disc or play catch with Topher Davis, the guy who was just activated today. And this is no shade at Topher. He's an accomplished player in his own right. They just haven't had all of those reps, especially in this pressure situation. Normally, Dinger's going to stop that pull before it rolls like that, and he's just going to pick it up and quickly center to Sadok. But missed execution on stopping the rolling pull, different personnel, and Minnesota capitalizing on that chaotic opportunity.
Minnesota's the best pulling team in the league. They got huge advantages against Atlanta last night, and now they get a quick break to start this second quarter.
Another really good pull. Dinger was lying down like the field was a mattress to make sure that this didn't get by him. Babbitt hits Yuan. Midfield for Cable. Cable was one of the more prolific huckers on this Boston team throughout the season, but he's been far more conservative for the Glory in the playoffs. Burnett active on the mark. High stall. Suflo is inches away. Here's Carapella. And Cable. Krennic on his back. Hanging up there, but Carapella had the angle. Babbitt has been on the field this point. He's being guarded by Vinoka in the end zone. Again, just hanging out, seemingly biding his time. DeCrana leaves his feet and then floats it, looking for Cable again, and Cable delivers again. An incredible start to this championship game for Orion Cable.
How's the air up there, kid?
Man, he is using his size in a way that we did not see earlier in the playoffs.
Well, you don't think of this shot as being boring or
Not
careful.
at all. That's not typical Boston offense right there. But this is just DeCrana seeing a matchup again that he feels good about, and goes up against Krennic. I mean, that is just such a high difficulty catch to make. Unbelievable play. Up against a guy who can get up in the air and make a block.
The last 3 Boston O points have all ended the same way. Toba to Orion. Is this pull going to hang in? Yes, it will. Fielded by Johnson, centers to Brandt. Glory by 1. 2 minutes into the second quarter. Cousins dishes for Rader. Rader, of course, involved in one of the most memorable UFA games of all time. Seattle-Madison semis on this field 9 years ago. This could be Rader's last game in the UFA. And he's got the assist to Snyder. Rader just turned 34 in July. Paul Krennic told a great story earlier today about what Rader's leadership has meant to him over these past several years.
Yeah, he went back to one of his first practices on the wind chill and was playing a drill, completes the drill. Krennic was on offense, and he was like, all right, hey, we scored on the drill. Nobody turned it over. Must have done a good job. I'm feeling good. Rader pulls him aside and says, hey, PK, come here, buddy. You got this to think about. You got that to think about. You could have done this better, and this could have gone differently. And it's amazing, how Krennic was able to recall an instance like that. And I think it's representative of the imprint that Raider has made on so many of these young wind chill guys, sharing his knowledge and experience and effectively being a part of the coaching staff to raise their level and raise their confidence.
Yeah, PK saying he really appreciated the level of detail and kind of recognized in that moment that there were many more levels he could reach. DeCrona looking for Cable again. He's got Pollard beat, and Cable's got his 4th.
They're going to have to do something about Orion Cable because he's cooking them. And they put size on him that time. Pollard was down there, but he was beat by 2 steps, and that's all that it takes. Orion Cable's going to keep going to the house, and Toby DeCrona is going to keep putting it up there. And they're going to have to start backing Orion, and that's for the best anyway. He already gave them a turnover earlier in this game as a thrower.
I've made a comment like that in the past. Thank goodness I don't have to worry about guarding Orion in any kind of competition myself. But I think the strategy has to be force Orion under and see if he can give you the disc with his throws, because clearly if he's got any kind of separation, whether it's an angle on the break side or barely a step deep, he's going to come down with it in this game.
It's like he's a really fancy car that Boston kept in the garage their last couple playoff games. He did not have a single score against DC. He had a forgettable 2 goals, no assists yesterday. He's dominant early today, and that huck doesn't work, looking for Snyder. Suffice to say, Boston has started the ignition and let Cable out of the garage tonight. Ethan Fortin rips it long. Peter Borth versus Greg Cousins. The nice throw from Fortin, floating perfectly. And Horace Berger dishes to Rossi. Boston has another break.
3 for 3. This Boston D-line keeps it going. And Minnesota's actually played pretty well offensively tonight, better certainly than yesterday against Atlanta, and yet when they've given it up, immediately punished every time. What a throw from Fortin to Borth, and then it's just a little pitch and catch in the red zone.
Really good read by Borth as well, because it looked like that disc was initially going to come down a little earlier on the flight path than it did, and he was able to read the wind, not high point it earlier than he had to, just keep fading his route to that break side, and he was able to run onto the disc in that way.
What a quiet, awesome career Ethan Fortin has had as a role player. He was a champion in Major League Ultimate in 2016, won 2 titles with the Empire, the only member of the franchise that played in all 31 games of their record-breaking winning streak. And now with championship weekend experience on a team without a ton of that, Fortin drops a dime to Borth to set up the 3rd break of the night. Vandy Mortel. Few guys have been more stabilizing amidst chaos for Minnesota these past couple of seasons than Tristan Vandy Mortel. And he's in the end zone all alone.
Is that a little wave before he caught the goal? I see you, Tristan.
So once again, an alternate lineup for Minnesota, getting the job done after the O-line gives up a break. And this is what kept them in the game against Atlanta. They were able to stabilize and not give up the 2-3 break runs that can really get you into trouble in the UFA. A little scary to do the wave at that point. I mean, he had to kind of refocus there as the disc came into the pocket.
He wouldn't have heard the end of that if he would have dropped that one.
Nice find from Sam Berglund. And watch this pull from Cam Lacey. He throws it with velocity and angle. And it's fielded by Dick in the corner. Gets it to Topher Davis in front of the end zone. Babbitt to Cable underneath. Feels like Cable might have been entitled to a heat check huck there, but he wisely holstered, and that's a sign of maturation from the big man. Little contact between Hansen and Carapella. They play through it. Vanoka fouls Babbitt. Babbitt looking for the call, and I think Vanoka was ready to call it on himself as well. Two great leaders there, Vanoka and Babbitt, matched up against one another. Downfield, it's Davis. Closing in on the midway point here in the second quarter. Glory looking to reestablish their 2-goal lead, which has been their largest so far. This is kind of a point that we expected tonight. Patience from Boston, feisty downfield matchup defense from Minnesota.
Absolutely, and you know, handler Jeff Babbitt taking some of these reps from Sadok.
And DeCrana finds Carapella. It's the 5th assist for the Belgian.
Well, look at the respect that Orion Cable commands when he crashes the cone at full speed. He pulls 2 defenders into that space because they realize how big a threat he is and that they've got to nullify that. And what does that do? Leave Simon Carapella wide open. Easy finish.
You know, and it's funny to think about Jeff Babbitt playing back as a reset handler, but the guy has just 1 turnover this season, and he's gone now 6 straight playoffs with just 1 turnover combined. That was in 2022. He had one with New York. He maybe isn't maximizing his strengths back there, but he also fits so well into what the Boston Glory offense wants to do, which is just get easy throws, easy catches, and methodically move it up the field.
Yeah, the level of consistency is just unmatched.
Nice find from Brandt. Raider floats it downfield, hanging up there. Oh, and Rossi misplayed it. Larson recovers to make the grab. What is it about these wind chill? Things like that just seem to keep happening to them in these championship weekend affairs.
Yeah, that should have been a turnover, plain and simple. That looked like, I mean, that's a 99% turnover situation, and Rossi just, maybe the wind kind of giving it a little extra loft in a moment you don't expect, makes him miss the play.
For the diehards on the broadcast, eerily reminiscent of the semifinal last year in Salt Lake, where Johnny Malks was chasing down a block against the Minnesota wind chill, and the disc caught a tuft of wind, went over him, and I believe it was Noah Hansen. It might have been a different wind chill receiver who ended up catching the goal in the end zone after Malks thought he had a sure block.
Larson to Snyder to punctuate that point, and here's our first sideline roller pull, and the wind chill sideline is trying to get their crowd to come to life. We saw this give Atlanta problems yesterday. It's a traveling violation against Dinger. Another whistle. And they're going to call the foul this time against Colin Berry.
And Dinger giving it back to the sidelines a little bit. Minnesota wind chill sideline screaming in these sideline trap situations to try to add some extra pressure and intensity.
I mean, we're not down on the field, but it looks like he's being marked by about 25 guys.
They get as close as they're legally able to get as we see the turnover.
Pressure breaks pipes. In a vacuum, that's just a careless drop from Simon Carapella. But in this moment, this atmosphere, this environment, this Minnesota vibe is alive. Well, to go back to what Colin Camp said yesterday, it was one of the loudest games he's ever experienced at Breese Stevens Field. I think it's considerably louder tonight than it was last night. Vanoka gets it to claim quickly for Larson. On the goal line, reset Johnson. Larson looking, floats it for Brandt. Well done. Minnesota ties it again.
They will not go away. First time with the sideline trap. They don't get the initial turnover, but maybe just enough chaos in that moment that Carapella has just his second drop of the season. And then the wind chill offense comes in and looks pretty smooth. Moving the disc early in the stall count. Kind of doing a Boston impression out there.
No one would mistake Will Brandt and Gordon Larson for Ben Sadok and Jeff Babbitt. But you think about the chemistry that those guys have together going back to their college days, UMass, and these younger guys, D3 national champs with St. Olaf. It's a special chemistry and partnership they've got, and an immediate foul as Suflo bumps Ned Dick. Again, if you joined us late, the Glory are without Ben Sadok tonight. The franchise's all-time leader in games, completions, points played, assists, yards, and chatter.
And Minnesota, without the talents of Dylan DeClerc.
Cable launching. Carapella chased by Hansen. Simon Carapella reels it in as Hansen went up a split second too soon.
Boy, did he come close. That's a great throw from Cable to get it back onto the break side, fading away from the defender. And what a game Orion Cable is having. Showing that he can punish as a thrower as well. Hansen. Inches from a block.
I mean, Carapella has been an unsung hero on this O-line as well. I think he's starting to get his recognition around the rest of the league, but his speed and ability to churn downfield, be a release valve in high pressure situations, really important stuff for the Glorio.
Already 200 yards of offense and a pair of goals for Carapella.
Now it's Minnesota's turn. Some space in the middle for Snyder. Keeps it rolling for Brandt. To Larson. Had Snyder going deep, but not a great angle to fire it. So here's Shope and Rader. Rader's going to launch. He underthrew Vanoka, who makes the catch from his backside. And Shope has it for the score.
Was that a clean release? Did that get partially blocked? How was that? How did that flight path happen?
All I know is Raiders living dangerously.
Look at the play. Goes to ground and makes an improbable catch to keep the possession alive.
Whoa. 10-10. I'll say this is far higher scoring than I was expecting coming into tonight. I thought between Minnesota's defense and Boston's patience, we would not have 20 goals in the first half.
Yeah, and the elevated wind conditions relative to yesterday, I'd agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, Boston's 5 for 5 on hucks. They've had more completed hucks than Minnesota.
And yet they haven't been able to shake this unshakable Central Division squad. Long float, Davis. Pretty good handler defense on DeCrana, so Davis goes upfield for Cable. Cable now on the other side of the field. Wouldn't say Jeff Babbitt's had a signature moment tonight. One big layup that he could not come up with early. But the night is young for the two-time MVP.
He's also just got a different kind of role tonight. He's got to just be the puppet master in the backfield for this offense.
Against DC in the East Final, the Glory had a lot of points like this. Taking their time, finding space. And then usually it was Babbitt doing his thing across the front of the goal line in the red zone. Tonight, it's been Orion Cable.
Goal number 5 for Orion Cable, who's up to 250 yards of offense and another really pretty Boston O-point.
23 seconds remaining for Minnesota before the half.
Cable's getting all the counting stats. He's making unbelievable plays downfield. And I think a big part of that is made possible by Babbitt being willing to transition to that backfield reset role and do what the offense needs there.
Babbitt's 24 for 24 passing.
That's because the Carapella throw was credited as a drop, not a throwaway.
That's right. That was the 6th assist for DeCrana as well. 10 seconds. Klain unleashes. A crowd in the end zone at the buzzer. It's deflected and caught. Minnesota Magic. Tristan Vandy Mortel ties it.
The whole pile is too small for Tristan Vandy Mortel. There's just something special in the air. And Minnesota keeps making plays. They get it to Klain. They give up the backhand. Klain sends it into space. A pile up, and Vandy Mortel does the right thing. Gets behind the pile and is there for the bounce.
I don't know if Rader is trying to tip this, but it worked out beautifully because he got up high and early, and there were a couple white jerseys just kind of outside the pile waiting for that deflection.
I mean, we talked to Kelsey Percy in the pregame, and she made clear how often Minnesota drills this.
Tanner Johnson go throwing it length of the field. It's tipped in the air by DeCrana, tipped by Burnett, and then finally Justin cancels it. A little more suspenseful than it had to be.
Oh my goodness.
Woo! You don't get 2 blocks for that, Justin. No, you only get 1. What a first half. Minnesota and Boston 11 apiece through 24 minutes. Welcome back to Breese Stevens Field, everybody. It's halftime in the 2025 UFA Championship Game. We are tied 11-all, Boston and Minnesota. An exhilarating first 2 quarters. And we welcome you back to the broadcast booth. With Ian and Charlie, I am Evan. I said at the start of our pregame show on the Game Day Live set, for Minnesota, fraud watch is over. Any Frisbee folk that tried to refer to this team as frauds, not having it anymore. And again tonight, they are showing they can battle with the tallest timbers of them all. Well, I want to get your guys' thoughts on Boston, because obviously DeCrana and Cable are cooking. And the D-line has converted every break opportunity, but only 3 break chances in the first half against this Minnesota O-line.
Yeah, that's what jumps out to me as well. I want to pivot back over to the Boston O-line for a quick second. I think Ned Dick has done a fantastic job essentially filling the role that Ben Sadok has played. He hasn't turned the disc over. He's been distributing. He's been getting open in the reset space. And not that I really doubted him coming into this game, but this is elevating into a special role, and he's risen to the occasion well. That's what I really want to emphasize.
I feel like Boston's got to figure out a way to get Minnesota shooting the deep ball a little bit more. They were concerned about that, and they've kind of done a good job of taking that away and forcing Minnesota to play through the unders, but that's actually worked well for the wind chill. Maybe can you find a way to start sitting on those unders a little bit more, have them take those deep shots. Still a little bit of a swirly wind out there, a little unusual for Madison evening. I think both defenses have some things that they can do to cause some issues for the opposing offense. We saw Minnesota getting close with some poach looks at the end of that second quarter where they were peeling off into kind of the lanes that they were anticipating Boston like to go to. They didn't come up with those blocks, but they almost did. We might see them get 1 or 2 of those in this second half.
Awesome atmosphere. 2 championship caliber teams, but only one of them gets to touch the trophy later tonight. Third quarter underway. Minnesota was broken to start the first. Big bid, but Stoughton comes up empty. Excellent reset pressure from Borth, but again Larson able to handle it. You certainly can't say that Minnesota hasn't had a bunch of high pressure big game reps in recent years under the bright lights with everybody watching. Chan on Shope. Allen comes with a double and then departs and gives a lane for Johnson, and then Thomas throws and goes and gains about 15 yards. Needed to be perfect on that reset to Johnson, and it was.
Superb cutter defense from Boston.
And it leads to a clean drop on the swing from Shope. Tanner Johnson go, looking to do what he did at the start of the game, shepherd this team down the field. Here's Stoughton. This looks like a dominator. Vertical stack downfield, 4 cutters not doing much. They're just hanging out. Now Johnson go gets involved, and he'll float it to the end zone for Peter Borth, who is wide open. Boston breaks.
4 for 4. Boston D-line taking advantage of their opportunities. That's the best D point they've played tonight. They absolutely shut down the cutting lanes. They got some reset pressure, and eventually it yielded that turnover as they have to throw the tricky shot back into the middle for Klain. And once again, Johnson go taking control.
Couldn't agree more. Just putting on the clamps. Peter Borth and Tyler Chan being so aggressive in that reset space, responding quickly, being ready to roll and switch if they need to, and then clamping right back into their assignment. That is really intense defense, and their patience after the turnover basically unparalleled when you look at their perfect conversion rate so far this weekend.
You might think, well, they just got a break. It's the first point out of half. Maybe Jeff Babbitt will come over on D and steal a point. No, he remains on the sideline. Tanner Johnson goes still out there, though. And Colin Berry, dangerous cross-field shot in the end zone. And now Pollard, amidst the traffic, creates some space downfield for Snyder. I beg your pardon, that's Bergmeyer. Berry miscommunication. Vandy Mortel stopped cutting, and Chan has another gift interception. Can Boston make it 5 for 5 on breaks? McCann out there with Backer. Johnson go. Floats it. Noah Backer has Stoughton open. He was fouled by Bergmeyer. Atlanta began the second half yesterday with back-to-back breaks, but Minnesota not going quietly. Will Brandt gets the block back.
First D-line turnover of championship weekend for Boston.
Beg your pardon, that was Bergmeyer again. Wow.
What a choice.
Second break chance of the point. This point almost 2 minutes old right now. The intensity is high. McCann goes down. Grabs his right ankle.
Well, there was some upper body contact. And I don't know if he rolled his ankle out, stepping on his defender's foot. Indeed, that's exactly what happened after that bump.
Rosenthal was hot. You saw him coming on the field, yelling at Monforte, asking for a foul call for the earlier physicality.
Well, definitely should have been a whistle.
And it was, but perhaps not as promptly as it could have been.
Well, you hope McCann's able to just shake that off and get back out there.
He's a quick healer. He had an injury that he thought was season ending a couple years ago, and a month and a half later he was back on the field.
And the Boston coaching staff wants another 10 yards.
Here's Stoughton working with Tanner. Timeout, Boston. Sam Rosenthal wants the offense on the field. Last night, Winchell were down 1 at the half, and the second half began with a hustle hold and then 2 straight breaks. The lead widened to 4, and DeCrana's in the end zone to put the Glory back up by 2. That's what you want out of a timeout if you're Boston.
9-7 they led. And then we saw a quick answer from Minnesota to get back to level. Minnesota actually hasn't led in this game since 2-1. Their only points of the game that they've actually held the outright lead. And Boston has given away their advantage a few times, but what a start to this second half.
Yeah, we look back at that replay sequence. That was some choice there from Berglund, trying to split the rolling defenders with a flat scuba. It was almost like Van de Mortel wasn't expecting it to come in that way.
Klain picks up for Minnesota, dishes for Rader, who launches deep. Double coverage there, and an easy interception for Ben Horisberger. Boston no longer perfect in converting their break chances, but they're 5 for 6, and here's their 7th chance. And another ill-advised choice from Rader, who's been pretty loose with the disc throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Boston's come out in the second half and really tightened things up on those underneath looks. And so Rader was trying to force the issue a little bit into double coverage.
No Tanner Johnson go on this D point to quarterback. So it's Ethan Fortin, Turner Allen, and Peter Borth who are going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting here with Oscar Graf as well.
You would think Sam Rosenthal does not want to burn his final timeout midway through the third quarter.
Rossi was open on the far side, but I think Graff and Fortin are kind of loath to throw to that sideline where one of the throwers could end up in a double team situation.
Especially right in front of the bench. Horisberger continues for Allen. This has been impressive. Small ball from the Boston D-line. Offense. Minnesota's fans crescendo to try to create a turnover and get the chill the disc back. Horisberger.
How gotta get the disc over to the weak side here. They just playing on that strong side the whole point. There we go.
Here's Rossi. Double team comes. He'll reset to Allen. And he's going to call an injury. Grabbing at his left calf. And here comes Tanner Johnson go. Justin Burnett will enter for Minnesota.
Nice substitution to be able to make if you're Boston. And this methodical offense feels like a boa constrictor slowly wrapping around the wind chill.
Here's Borth working with Graff. Little arm-to-arm combat there between Burnett and Johnson Go. Now Justin calls for the switch. Johnson Go creates a little space underneath. Floats it up line. Boston is in. What a march. 14-11 with their third break in a row.
Unbelievable start to the second half, and Turner Allen injury blessing in disguise for that point as Johnson Go is able to come in and just take over. Raider ill-advised deep shot, and then you see Johnson Go finishing the point, but he almost went every other after coming in after the injury.
We've been talking all night about the similarities between the semi from last night and the championship game tonight. Minnesota was down 3, down 4 in the third quarter against their opponent.
Well, they're in better shape now than they were at this time yesterday when it was 14-10.
It does feel a little different to me tonight,
Yes,
given
it
the
does.
way the Boston team has played so efficiently.
Here we go. Vinoka loses his hat, and he's not going to have much of a chance. It looks like Tyler Chan ushers the disc to the ground. Bold choice from Minnesota does not pay off.
It's starting
and
to look.
that's got to be a foul.
Oh, a little extracurriculars after the foul.
Why is Berglund throwing an armbar at him after he gets up?
Maybe something he said?
Huh.
Not backing down. And Vinoka's calling the foul on himself. Even before the referee could blow the whistle.
That's incredible sportsmanship right there from a real leader in the sport. Sets a really great example. Calling that foul on himself in a championship game.
Oh,
it's huge.
Fanny Mortel was a fingertip away, and now Boston will use its final timeout.
I got to be honest, I like it.
Yeah.
They have a chance to extend this lead to the point where it's going to make things really difficult for Minnesota. It's hard to imagine the wind chill having enough in the tank to get the 4 or 5 breaks they would need to win this game against this Boston Glory offense, which is just resting on the sideline.
Just run what we do, all right? Yeah. Like we've done at practice every fucking week, right now for the goal. Yes, sir. Boys, big breath together.
I think they know how important this moment is. in this game.
And Toba was the one that spoke up and said, let's take a deep breath together.
Well, it's starting to feel a little desperate out there from the Minnesota offense. A couple of very poor hucks after not really being able to get much progress on the previous couple of points. And Boston can open this game up.
Ryan Dinger is a guy the Glory have been trying to recruit for a long time. They got him this year for the first time. Babbitt a stumble, but he recovers. Hansen on the mark. DeCrana, already 6 assists tonight. There's number 7 and his 16th here the weekend in Madison. 4 straight breaks for the Glory. Out of the gate here in the third. Winchell still have not scored since halftime.
And what do you do if you're Minnesota? Trying to call up the pull play and send a huck isn't working right now. DeCrana dominating.
That's been the thing about this Minnesota squad all year long is what is their offensive go-to? Oh man, we've been broken a couple times. Oh man, we need something to stabilize. And I don't know what that is.
Well, if they don't come up with a good answer soon, their hopes will extinguish for the night and the season. What a pull. Two pretty good passes, and Minnesota still with a lot of work to do just to get out of their own end zone. Cross-field scuba for Christian Johnson. And that throw is gonna work somehow to Cousins. Finally out of Callahan country, Snyder resets for Larson. And downfield we get contact against Boston. So 10 free yards and a breather. Here's Bevon. Had Snyder going deep. Resets for Larson instead. This entire quarter, Boston's D-line has really made Minnesota work for everything. Collision in the middle between Haflin and Vinoka, and they're calling it against Vinoka. See if we can get another glimpse of that. I just saw him go down, did not see the contact as it occurred.
It's hard to knock Gus Haflin over, so if that wasn't a sell job.
Incomplete. Brandt can't connect with Larson. The Boston break train choo-chooing their way to a championship here in the third.
And every point in which they've turned over the Minnesota O-line, they've ended up getting the break. Oh, that might have hit the floor. No whistle.
It's ruled up. Minnesota saying it was down, as you would suspect. Friendly fire there with Larson diving into Klain. Johnson accelerates. Who's going to fill the space near the pylon? Double team comes. Reset Borth. Boston on the brink of a 5-goal lead. They've got it. Rossi to Graf.
What an incredible third quarter it's been. Just 34 seconds remaining, and it's 5 unanswered from Boston, and they've blown the game open.
This is just a masterclass from the Glory. They're applying defensive pressure. They're taking primary options away. And when they get the disc, they are valuing it in a way that teams around the league have not been able to do. This is, we are seeing what a championship caliber team is made of right here.
.34 seconds to go. Minnesota in danger of getting blanked here in this third quarter.
They desperately need to score before we see zeros here at the end of the third. Boston receives to start the fourth.
Colin Berry sends Raider. He's got it, but still work to do. 16 seconds, Krennic. And now Pollard. He's got Shope open, far side of the field. He sees him, and Minnesota finally finds the end zone again.
Really nice shot from both Berry and Pollard. A lot of times in those red zone situations, especially with the clock winding down, you can really get that tunnel vision, both as a cutter and a thrower, focused on that front cone. How do I jam it in there? How do I attack that space as aggressively? But Pollard, the experienced guy he is, has the wherewithal to scan the entire field and take in the far break side option and make it there past the outstretched arms of the defense. What an addition he's been to the wind chill this season.
So Minnesota scores with 1.5 seconds left in the second quarter, and then their next goal comes with 4.7 left in the third. A bobbled pull receive from Johnson go, and Glory won't have time for a full field shot. But that was really the only miscue of the quarter for this Boston team that played a championship 12 minutes, 5 breaks in a row. Peter Borth scored twice. Tanner Johnson go through 2 assists. Toba DeCrana out of the timeouts had a goal and an assist. And Boston is 12 minutes away from claiming its first UFA championship. Does Minnesota have any magic left as we head to the fourth?
Nightmare third quarter for the Minnesota wind chill. They couldn't work it underneath, so they started sending it deep, and it didn't work out. Scuba, no, and the Glory put 5 straight breaks on the board, and they opened up a 4-goal lead. Can Minnesota find more fourth quarter magic like they had yesterday? It's a tough ask as they begin this fourth quarter on offense.
They outscored Atlanta 8-4 in the fourth quarter yesterday. If they could do that tonight, we'd be headed to overtime at 20-all.
Yeah, I think they're going to need to have at least 2 breaks by the 7-minute mark for it to feel like it's an option. They're going to go straight to the roller pull and look to get another quick turn. It worked for them once in the first half.
Watch for the hammer to Cable or DeCrana.
Dinger surrounded, floats it high, and it's Hansen ripping it down. Panoka says, let's take it. Some contact. DeCrana goes down. Back on his feet. Minnesota's going the wrong way.
Yeah, there's a lot of disconnection between the handlers and the folks at the front of this set who also need to get involved.
Boston, a top 3 O-line defense this season.
Yeah, and Vinoka signaling right there. Guys, come back in. Get back in the fold.
Vandy Mortel. Badgered by Dick on the mark. Bold choice. Carapella's there for the block.
And Ben Feldman normally would try to take a timeout there, but they're just down too much to burn one early. You wonder if he'll regret the decision.
Oh, but it's an incredible layout from Brett Bergmeyer. What is going on here in the first couple minutes in the fourth? Can Minnesota punch it in? Yes! 3-goal game.
Paul Krennic did that same fist pump yesterday in the fourth quarter after a critical break. And here we go again. Minnesota with 2 huge blocks to start this fourth.
The first block from Hansen, a byproduct of the double team and the floaty throw. This second block from Bergmeyer, just pure individual brilliance.
And a much shorter field this time for the wind chill. Van Mortel, great find to Krennic. Out to the far cone, and here we go again. Roller pull number 2. You got to prove you can beat it.
Massive tumbling hammer to Johnson go.
And that's fine. You can lose 40 yards. It's just about getting out of the trap.
Once again, this is Boston's D-line playing, something we saw in the first half after the glory got broken.
Stall count rising on Chan, gets it to Borth. We were talking about this with Ben Feldman earlier today, fellas. Just a different pressure in this type of situation on offense, and Hansen gets his hands in the cookie jar again. Vandy Mortel initiates to Krennic. Timeout, wind chill.
Funny to see the commonalities between the coaching staff. Nathan Wicks at the timeout for Boston in the third quarter saying, hey guys, this is what we've done 1,000 times in practice. Max Longchamp saying the same exact thing to that O-line for Minnesota right there.
These early fourth quarter turns from the Boston offense, more about their nerves and jitters or what Minnesota's doing defensively in your mind?
I think it's a little of both. I think the defense's intensity has risen for Minnesota, and that's creating some of that scrambly feeling that we saw from Atlanta's offense last night inside of the Boston Glory.
Crossfield shot, incomplete. The disc would not float long enough.
And now advantage Boston.
A chance for Minnesota to get back within 2 with plenty of time left. And the Glory will patiently look to march it down and get the margin back to 4. Graf has been really steady. Stoughton doubled. His hammer hits Horrisberger. Johnson go. Has Halflin completely unmarked. Jeff Babbitt is in no hurry at all.
Is there any world where we see a Carolina run back and Boston just runs out the clock on this point?
This point began with 10:18 to play, so 3 minutes have already disappeared on this point.
Ben Snell and company did that with 5 and change, right?
Yeah. This would be about double that. Stoughton's floater going to be intercepted by Schopp. Here's Larson. He had Cousins going deep, but he also saw Babbitt there defensively, and he wisely chose to avoid that battle.
This is a wind chill D point, but their O-line's on the field.
Vinoka is in the end zone. Wind chill within 2, not quite 7 minutes, Charlie, but pretty darn close to it.
They are right back in this thing. And now it's time for the Boston Glory superstars to show up if they want to close out this win. Babbitt, DeCrona are going to have to go out and win this game.
Cable too. He's been having one heck of a night.
He sure has, but we haven't really seen him in the second half. Not really his fault that he didn't play in the third quarter because the D-line was dominating. But it is now crunch time, and this Wind Chill team believes deeply that they can win this game from behind, playing on defense. Bevon, what a game he's having.
So that's 3 straight goals for Minnesota spanning the quarters. That last point took about 3.5 minutes off the clock.
And here we go again.
Blading hammer caught by Babbitt. Crapful approaches. And Babbitt discards to DeCrona, who keeps it moving for Carapella. These are the stars that you guys were talking about. Cable gets his touch with Burnett right there. Toba DeCrona working with Jeff Babbitt. Cable with Burnett's footsteps pouncing in the close vicinity. Past the midway point in this fourth quarter. Already a minute off the clock on this point. Boston by 2. They've led by as many as 5. Albert Yuan floats it for Carapella. Burnett saw the lane for the poach, but couldn't react quickly enough. And Orion Cable has his 6th goal of the night.
Great pressure from the Wind Chill. They force some sketchy throws, but Boston plays through it. And after lots of back and forth between DeCrona and Babbitt, they get it moving through the cutters. Yuan with a nice find, and it bounces all the way through into Cable for yet another goal.
Toba DeCrona had the one early turnover looking for Babbitt in the end zone, but he's 38 for 39 passing. Second most completions for Boston, young Oscar Graf. He's 33 for 33. Babbitt, 32 for 32. Wind chill, trailing by 3 again. Their O-line is out there.
No room for error for Minnesota. They've got to hold out.
5 minutes left in the 2025 UFA Championship. Quinn Snyder. We got contact. The Boston bench erupts. The coaches are signaling that it was uncatchable, but Rossi clearly collided with Snyder, and Blake Grundy put his hand up immediately. Snyder double teamed. Contact call will reset the stall.
Clock
Also
keeps
bleeds
ticking.
more time. To Rader. And into the end zone. It's Barry. 4:14 left. 2-goal game.
I understand the frustration from the Boston sideline. I mean, clearly contact that constitutes a foul, but is there any way that Snyder had a play on that disc? It looked like it had already gone over his head by the time the contact came, got hit in the face. But ultimately, refs blow the whistle, and Minnesota gets the hold.
I mean, this thing's trailing towards the break side. Rossi closing in. He goes up, and the follow-through swat hits Snyder in the face. It feels like
There's a case he's got a second effort on that, maybe?
Yeah, some kind of a case for that, yeah. It'd be a stretch, but...
Vanoka and Shopes hit the double team on Dinger. That hammer finds DeCrana.
Endlessly impressed, with Minnesota's relentless pressure on these double team situations, but also Boston's ability to navigate them.
Bobbled and dropped by Yuan. Minnesota could get within one. Krennic. Badgered on the mark. This is going to be a foul if it's not caught, but we play on. Pollard looking for Burnett, and it's Dick. But there was a timeout called by Feldman before the throw from Pollard, and Minnesota will have the disc with 3:13 to go.
The legend.
It's Brandt, Klain, Cousins, Larson, Johnson, Rader, and Snyder. Coach Feldman talked earlier today about how he's played in this league, how he's coached in this league. He's studied situations, he's developed the instincts. And if Minnesota could punch this in, then how would Boston handle the pressure with less than 3 minutes to go, receiving up by one? Minnesota hopes to put him in those clamps. Deep shot for Rader in the end zone, off his fingertips and incomplete. Two defenders right there, but it looked like Rader was ready to rise up and meet the moment. He comes up empty, and Boston has it again. Now the Glory are out of timeouts, and this is the Boston D-line.
I can't wait to get another look at that attempted deep shot to Rader. I'm wondering if there was any contact.
Boston turns it in the red zone for the wind chill. Boston not closing this game out beautifully, but Minnesota can't barge through the door. That was left mighty ajar.
And now you're in a clock kill situation. If you're the Glory, you can just run Dominator and throw resets for 2 minutes and you win.
Two-goal game, under 2 minutes. Boston out of timeouts. Oscar Graf has been mistake-free. And this Boston D-line has been mighty reliable with the disc. Borth bumped, and he will march off the 10. Tick, 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 tick. Again, it's Graf. That throw is gonna work. Halflin working with Johnson, go at midfield. Now Borth. Chan wide open. Boston on the doorstep. And it's a turnover with less than a minute to go.
Oh my God.
Can you believe it? Still a slight glimmer of hope for Minnesota. Brandt sending Cousins. Cousins with a heroic, insane injury-creating catch, but he hangs on to the disc. Outrageous. How?
You cannot kill this Minnesota team. Greg Cousins turning back the clock with this one.
Where does this come from?
Oh, wow. Wrong-handed.
Greg Cousins has been a warrior.
So with the injury substitution, Babbitt gets to come on for Boston.
Well, in a two-goal game and 42 seconds left, Minnesota just has to get the disc into the end zone in a hurry.
Brandt on the reset. They need to slice this 2-goal gap in half. It's a crossfield scoober, and it's
That was on the ground.
on the ground. It's ruled down. Snyder with a Herculean effort.
And that might do it.
A chance to get within one. And a whistle and a foul. And a clock that stops with 22 seconds left. This Minnesota team has had so much heart and so much fight. And a drop from Borth creates another final glimmer of hope. But this one's thrown in the direction of Babbitt, and Jeff Babbitt might have just closed the door. He might have slammed it shut. Minnesota's had their fair share of chances and then some. But it's gonna be Boston's night and Boston's year. Another whistle, another contact call. The celebration already starting on the Boston sidelines. Jeff Babbitt, a few seconds away from his 4th UFA title, launching it into the air. Time is gone. Boston has its glory. The 2025 UFA Championship belongs to Boston. The celebration continues for the Boston Glory. It was truly a heart-pounding effort from the Minnesota Wind Chill, but they end up 2 goals shy. And it's Boston over Minnesota, 17-15. In the 2025 UFA Championship to wrap up this phenomenal season. Back in the broadcast booth with Ian Toner and Charlie Eisenhood. Fellas, first of all, privilege and an honor to share this booth with you tonight. For Boston, it is a moment they've been working toward for half a decade. And this is a team that has had its ups and downs, but they get Babbitt, they bring in other pieces, and they were among the best teams all year long. And here at Championship Weekend, they delivered.
I remember when Boston joined the league, and there was a lot of excitement about what that could mean. And they never really got the buy-in. They would show up to games down in New York with, you know, maybe half their best players. They didn't quite have everybody together. And I think when Babbitt moved up there, it changed the culture of this team. And we can see that when they bring all of the talent together in Boston, that they are the most talented team in the league. They proved that this season. What a performance here in this game.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And, you know, Sam Rosenthal made a nice point of emphasizing how instrumental the coaching staff has been in this team's ability to execute at the highest level. Sam Lehman working really hard. The rest of the coaching staff getting Tanner Johnson-Go, a star in his own right, to buy in and become a D-line guy in one of the later stages of his career. It's just been a really inspiring message that I think a lot of people can learn from. And it also says, you know, hey, this isn't the era of super teams anymore. We are in an era where you need commitment from top to bottom, from the start of the season, the offseason, the preseason, to be able to cultivate a championship effort.
And this team is deep. They are so deep. Like the bottom of, you know, 5 players on their roster, big-time contributors that would be starters on most other teams.
The best talent in New England all coming together, the best minds from a Frisbee standpoint, all collaborating and putting it together. And for Minnesota, man, they took us for a fun ride. The wins over Chicago and Atlanta were unbelievable. And we overuse that word, but just what they were able to do is incredible, and yet not quite enough tonight.
I mean, they had an opportunity to break and get within 1 with about 2 minutes to play, and they had themselves a chance to win this game, or at least force overtime. What an incredible performance from them this entire postseason. You know, they had a regular season to forget, let's be honest. But they came into this postseason and played championship level ultimate, and really it's just that third quarter that did them in. If they had been able to keep that D-line on the field a little bit more, who knows what could have been.
Congratulations to the Boston Glory, the 2025 UFA champions. For our entire production crew, led by Blaine Bestel, for Colin Camp on the sideline, Ian Toner, and Charlie Eisenhood with me here in the booth. Evan Leffler saying so long from Breese Stevens Field.